Hello, everyone, and welcome to Avafest 2022 and the Poetry and Spoken Word Showcase, Salute the Mic. I am proud to be your artistic director for the second year in a row. My name is Vecepia Robinson, and I am a proud veteran of 8 years of the United States Air Force. So this year's showcase will be a little different from last year. Last year we had just poems and spoken word. But for this year, we're adding some new elements. We're actually adding the power of storytelling and a little bit of rap. So if you know, the impact of a single story is extremely powerful. And the artists who are going to be sharing their stories with you this year, we hope will impact you too. Because our main goal is really to help heal our veterans through the arts. And so then also you'll see a little bit of rap. So we want you to just sit back, relax, and enjoy this year's virtual showcase. And guess what? Later, you will actually hear one of my poems that I have put into the showcase. And also you'll hear one that my son, he did not write the poem, but he wanted to actually participate in this. So he's going to be reciting someone else's poem. So thank you. And we hope that you enjoyed this year's Avafest 2022 Salute the Mic Poetry and Spoken Word Showcase.
We are sometimes asked, in the name of patriotism, to forget the merits of that fearful struggle and to remember with equal admiration those who struck at the nation's life and those who struck to save it, those who fought for slavery and those who fought for liberty and justice. I am no minister of malice. I will not strike the fallen. I will not repel the repentant. But if my right hand forgot her cunning and my tongue cleaved to the roof of my mouth, let me never forget the difference in the parties of that terrible, protracted, bloody conflict. We're asked to forget a war which has filled our land with widows and orphans, which has made stumps of men, which has sent them on a journey in life, armless, legless, maimed and mutilated, which has piled up a debt heavier than a mountain of gold, swept countless thousands of men into bloody graves, and planted agony at 1,000,000 hearthstones. I say, if the war is to be forgotten, in the name of all things sacred, what shall men remember? We have come here not to praise manly courage, save what it displayed in that noble cause. But let us never forget that victory to the rebellion meant death to the republic. Let us never forget that the loyal soldiers who rest beneath this sod flung themselves between the nation and the nation's destroyers.
Hi, veterans and families. I just want you to think if you've ever considered how many people it took to make you. Think about that. I mean, from the very beginning of your life, through all the training that you had in the military, to where you're at today, there are a lot of people who have cared about you enough to invest in you. And that's what my poem, His Uniforms, is about. I'm Jean Bansimer. I want to thank you for listening. And I want you to remember that there is always someone out there who's cared enough to invest in you. His Uniforms is in Along Came 22 by Jean Bansimer. After you've bathed and dressed your newborn son and nestled his cheek to your chest, you're one. Pat his onesie and consider what's next. His future seems too far away to suggest. You're in this stage until the next. Whoosh, tying a 4-year-old's shoes, buttoning his T-ball uniform, hoping his team won't lose. He sits and builds dirt mounds and rolls with other kids on the ground. At soccer, he'll kick wildly with 10 tots. 2 side lanes will cheer, "Take the shot!" Then he's 6 on Halloween in his booster seat. You're driving to his class party with bags of treats. He's in a pilot's jumpsuit, flying plastic spaceships to Mars. Remember when he once liked cars? Shoosh, shoom, boom, now he's orbiting. At 10, you pray together for the safety of first responders and those in need, as fire engines, ambulances, and police cars race by with rotating lights and sirens to the scene. His eyes are wide and he wants to know more. You take him to the fire station. These guys have seen this before. They place a red plastic hat on your son's head. He stands in their giant boots next to a row of beds, wearing an oversized heavy coat with reflectors on the sleeves, his arms dragged to the floor, and he's smiling. His bicycle is a fire engine, and its rinky-tink bell a siren. Standing straight, he pedals into an emergency. He's a man of iron. He orders his buddies to a swing set with urgency. "Get a line over here," he yells. They unroll your garden hose, spray pretend bombshells. Water douses his slide, and your neighbor's drying clothes too. But that child is gone forever at 15. Who knew? He volunteers for an Explorer program at your local fire department, issued a coat and a hat from their locker compartment. He wears them in a selfie he snaps. The picture is sent to a girl, and you don't know what to think about that. 16, he consumes hours of YouTube videos about cops, soldiers, firefighters. An older friend shows him how to safely shoot a gun. When you think they're just camping, his secrets have only just begun. He wants a German Shepherd puppy to train to be a police dog, and you agree. Though that dog's gonna be yours for an eternity. Time is just flying when he's 17, and sometimes not fast enough. He argues about making his bed or vacuuming. It seems like you're always fielding guff. He eats gallons of ice cream, bags of chips, peanut butter on a spoon, and chicken strips. Your son is taller, and you are fatter. He wants your car, and so you say, "Get a job, squatter." He hates the uniform and complains about the work, but he shows up and earns, so you hide your smirk. Your dear son, in his high school cap and gown, leaves you with a carnation and says, "Parents, well done." 8 weeks later, in a military uniform, you watch him salute a commanding officer before he heads down the next corridor. Your child is gone, but not. The memories you helped to create make him who he is today. His uniforms hang neatly in his closet, each worn when needed on any given day.
Hey guys, I'm Travis J. the Poet. If you don't know me, I own a company called Shattered Addict Writing. I have a couple books that I've self-published. And tonight I'm performing here because I have lots of family members and friends that have been through the armed forces, you know, whatever branch it may be. I know a lot of veterans, and I know that when we're making our decisions in life that we all are trying to find our purpose. And that's how we got here, is we either served our purpose or we're still trying to figure out our purpose, you know. And this is my purpose, is to inspire people through my writing. So tonight I'm going to read a poem from my self-published book, Addict, called My Purpose. I hope you guys enjoy. Here's my purpose from my self-published book, Addict, My Side, My Story. Have you ever felt like you were meant for more? Of course, most people would answer yes to this question, but they are never sure what or how they are. This is reasonable. I believe most of us start with the purpose whether we know it or not. The thing is if we keep that purpose throughout life or not. I feel like I've been lost for years trying to find my purpose and what I'm supposed to do with this life. I felt like I was never going to really accomplish much, even though I did accomplish some things, just not the things that fulfilled my purpose in my eyes. For example, I have one of those 4-year degrees but still work jobs that are lower than my education. I have a beautiful family that I get to wake up to every day. Yet I still felt unfulfilled and I couldn't figure out why. There was this passion I had when I was young that actually led me to a few conventions for writers until I was told writers don't make any money. I had a passion I had lost, a passion I was told I was stupid for, a passion that is hard to become known by, a passion that they thought I was not strong enough to endure. A passion that because of my separation from these people, places, and things, I was able to reignite. A passion that one day I realized I've always been meant to do is be a writer, and not just simply that, but a writer that inspires people. Out of my many talents, there's only one that will fulfill my future, and it is to write, to inspire, to help, to bring awareness to the fact that we're all worth something, whether we believe it or not, and that we all have a purpose. So I want to say thank you for listening to my poem, My Purpose, from my book, Addict. And just know that if you're having rough times, you know, we all can make it through, and we all can do it. Sometimes we got to reach out for some extra help, and that's why we do this here. So if you need some extra help, reach out. And thank you once again, and I hope everyone enjoyed. Have a good night.
Hi, my name is Grant. I'm a reserve airman that's currently serving active duty. In my free time, I love going out and exploring, backpacking, and camping, and making YouTube videos of the wonderful wilderness that the United States has to offer. Thank you for viewing, and if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to my channel. Have a good one. So do you see that mountain way over there? Tomorrow, I'm going to climb that mountain, and I'm going to climb it with a friend from the fire department. This is going to be fun. Well, I'd say it's not the nicest day to be going out and camping, but we're gonna still do it anyway.
my gaiters on, get my technical stuff, and we'll climb up to the actual summit with basically our dinner.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's sweet.
This right here, this is the very top. Very tippy top of the mountain, and I'm standing on it.
Dispatch 1306, radio check.
1306, you're loud and clear.
Copy, loud and clear, top of Scotchman's.
Oh. There's probably 1,000 people that just heard that and are like, nice.
That's where we're going to be camping tonight, or sleeping tonight. There you go.
My feet are on fire.
It's like a lightsaber. We're in a cloud right now, and this is my flashlight. That's super cool. Alright, going to bed, everybody. Good night.
Well, I'm going to share with you 3 stories tonight. The first 2 are short and will lead to a question that I hope that the third answers. How many of you here love golf? How many of you here hate golf? And how many of you could care less about golf? Well, now that we understand that, here's a story for each and every one of you. My wife and I lived in Cincinnati, and after we were married and before we had kids, which was from 1980 to 1984, we would travel regionally to escape from our careers and just have a weekend getaway. One of those trips was to the Marriott Griffin Gate in Lexington, Kentucky. It's on I-75 at exit 115. It's a resort, or so they say, because it has a pool, hot tubs, and a golf course, which met both of our needs. I'm a golfer, and Cindy loves to sunbathe and loves hot tubs. So one day we agreed she would be by the pool with her reflector and I would be on the golf course. And I hooked up with a couple of good old boys from Kentucky. They were nice guys. They were a lot better than me. But then again, everybody I play with is better than me. So the first 4 holes were pretty uneventful. I got my typical triple bogeys. That's 3 over par. A good golfer will, if the par is 4, they'll sink the putt and hit a 4. I 3-putted, 4-putted, and ended up with many bogeys. And then came the 5th hole, the game changer. I had a drive for me pretty long, 200 yards, and straight and high. Second shot is I pulled out my old 5-wood. I figured I could reach the green in that if I hit it right, which isn't too often. Swung back, hit, and the ball looked like it was going to the green. Now, it was a fairway that sloped down, had a little bit of a grade down, and then at one point it drops off. And then in front of, or after it drops off a little way, there's a green patch leading to an elevated green. So I knew that 5th shot had to hit that green, that 5-wood shot. I reared back, hit it, and like I said, it was heading toward the green, but it fell short. I couldn't tell if it was in that dark green patch or not. So I drove my golf cart, and by the way, at the edge of this downsloping fairway was like an abrupt drop off. It wasn't really abrupt, but it was a shorter angle of about 10 feet. So I parked my cart on the ridge and I walked down to check where the ball was, and I found it in the dark green patch just on the border. That green patch was some shrubbery leading to a pond. So I did what any good amateur would do. I took my foot, made a foot wedge, kicked the ball out, and went to get my club to try to nail it on the green. As I turned around, the cart was heading towards that green pond, and it was on its own. I forgot to put on the brake, but I watched James Bond from Sean Connery all the way to Daniel Craig. I knew what to do. I hopped in that cart as it was moving, and I slammed on the brake, but missed and hit the gas. The cart, my clubs, and me landed at the edge of that pond. The cart was submerged to the front and it was up to my knees, but I was able to get out, grab my clubs, and I had to slosh up to the pro shop where I had to admit what I did. All the other golfers there gave me a look like I was scum of the earth, probably because I smelled like scum of the earth. The guy at the counter said, "Oh, Mr. Fink, we're so sorry. Can we give you another cart?" He said, "I think your course has had enough of me for one day." And then I had to slosh over to a higher power. Slosh. Cindy's at the pool with her reflector. She hears my sloshing, lowers the reflector, peers over the top, and starts laughing. About 20 minutes later, I told her, explained what happened, and she said, "You know, you do have something in common with James Bond. You're almost like his martini because you're shaken and still disturbed."
Hello everyone, my name is Jordan Robinson and I will be performing a non-original poem for you guys today. My veteran affiliations are the director of the Avafest Poetry and Spoken Word Showcase is my mother, Vecepia Robinson, and my uncle, Glenn Towery, is the president of the Veteran Suicide Prevention Channel. So I hope you guys enjoy. A family is like a circle. The connection never ends. And even if at times it breaks, in time it will always mend. A family is like the stars. Somehow they're always there. Families are those who help, who support, and always care. A family is like a book. The ending's never clear. but through the pages of the book, their love is always near. A family is many things with endless words that show who they are and what they do and how they teach you so you know. But don't be weary if it's broken or through times it's been so worn. Families are like that. They're split up and always torn. But even if this happens, your family will always be. They help define just who you are and will be a part of you eternally. A Family is Like a Circle by Nicole M. O'Neill. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Denise. The illustration that you are about to watch is titled Clouds on a Rainy Day. I wrote this piece when I was in a place of deep sadness, and sometimes we equate having that cloud over our head with things that are negative. And one thing that I've learned is where there is water, there is life. Clouds often are taught to represent sadness and taught to represent depression. And I had to retrain my brain and how I looked at my clouds. And I hope that this blesses you in doing the same. On rainy days, the clouds seem to never end, hiding the sunshine from releasing its warm rays as the window pane presses against the skin. A storm brewing, possibly something more. As teardrops hit the floor, the sky opens. Just a glimpse of hope shines bright, not revealing all that's in store. Then a small voice speaks out. Not only storms are birthed from clouds, but clouds can harvest so much more. As we wait in expectation that the clouds of gray will only pour out rain, we miss to see what's being formed inside. Where there is water, there too is life. So don't let your clouds be a symbol of rain, giving harvest to pain in remembrance of where it once came. Yet look at your cloud and envision what it holds. Future stories untold, blessings waiting to unfold. On rainy days, the clouds seem to never end, hiding the sunshine from releasing its warm rays as the window pane presses against the skin.
Hi, how you guys doing? My name is Philip Marshall. I also go by Lyric. This is a piece I wrote called Stop the War. War, it rages, battles fierce, until the night it never stops. Bodies scattered in the field, blood still wet from bombs that drop. No compassion, just reaction. You took mine, I'll take yours. Senseless fighting, fathers dying, mothers screaming, stop the war, please stop the war, take it all. Send my daddy home. In just 2 days, I'm turning 6. Last year, he saw me through a phone. I don't think I like your tone. What do you mean my husband's dead? I really hate to say this, ma'am. A bullet struck him in the head. Witnesses said that he was brave and we expected nothing less. Well, I expected him to see his firstborn daughter's wedding dress. Confess my sins while I still can. The day may come too soon. A blast goes off. Nothing can stop my introduction to my tomb. I'm back inside my mother's womb. I feel I've been in here before. I can't make out the words she screams so loud. Will someone stop the war? Stop the war. Tanks, they roar. Sirens cease my sleep. Mommy's crying, sister's hiding. Missiles hit across the street. The house my friend I grew up with explodes. He may be dead. I pray that God can help my friend. Maybe he take my life instead. Would someone please just stop the war? We're killing all the babies. Thousands injured, hundreds dead. The hospital just fell. The babies. The innocent and heaven sent. Children, men and ladies. Would someone please just make it stop? It's hard to watch them kill the babies. Honey, I just want to make it home. I'm praying every night. Funny thing, they pray here too. I'm told it's why they're in the fight. So tell me this, who's really wrong if God's commanding them? If they believe he guides their path, do I fight for the wrathful end? Honey, I just made it home. Come help me through the door. Bombs hit my tent when I was asleep. Now I can't see you anymore. Please stop the war, just stop the war. It's causing so much pain. The president advised today, we've lost over 1,000 names. 1,000 souls, 1,000 lives. That many sounds so crazy. Would someone please just make it stop? I mean, really, come on, the babies. My dignity is broken, love. The man I was exists no more. I know one thing I don't regret. The day I went to fight the war, it was a day just like the rest. Our whole platoon was under fire. Hot ones whizzed above our heads. Explosives all around were wired. Sergeant signaled forward movement. Before the men could take a step, a grenade had landed at our feet. Instinctively, just then I leapt. I made my bed over the blast. Thankfully, no one had died. Back home, they said that I'm a hero, that I had saved my brothers' lives. So why then do my children cry when mommy cleans my wounds? Look at me like I'm a monster, afraid to come out of the room. My wife says they'll move past it soon. She swears it's just a phase. It's not just me, they're coping too. Forgive them for their childish ways. Stop the war, so many ways to say, but no one listens. Every night our family prays for soldiers that are missing. War rages on, who's right or wrong, the Lord will only know, and it won't stop till he returns, as then his peace will finally show. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed that. I really see a lot of different things going on with that when I wrote that, like with the video being made of a little girl saying her part, a little boy saying his part, and the interaction going on, background scenes of the war taking place, the soldier finally coming home, wounded, So I hope you enjoyed it. I have plenty more of my life pieces. So thank you. Have a nice day.
Hello, everyone. It's Vecepia Robinson, the Artistic Director of Avafest 2022's Spoken Word and Poetry Showcase, Salute the Mic. And as I stated, I am going to share one of my original pieces. This piece I wrote about 7 days ago, and I was actually inspired by one of the other artists in this year's showcase. It was the last sentence in one of her poems, and the words said, "At any given day." And that's the title of this poem. And we know that at any given day, we can be touched, we can be connected, and we can even be impacted by something we see, something we smell, taste, or even feel. And that's what happened to me, and that's why I was inspired to write this poem. I was connected by what I saw, and I felt compelled to put it on paper. So with that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this poem, one of my newest original pieces entitled At Any Given Day. Any given day, I wonder, where are my thoughts going to take me today? Will they free me, deliver me, transform me, revive me, shame me, honor me, delight me, or even excite me? And any given day, as I sit and watch the world go by, I ponder to myself, if these people that I am watching, are they freed? Are they delivered? Are they transformed? Are they even revived, shamed, honored, delighted, or even excited? As each person passes and each moment elapses, my soul meets them in the spaces where we connect and we become one, bouncing in and out of my space and my thoughts into their space and their thoughts, and we become one. In most instances, we immediately connect. And I'm immersed in their beings, in their joys, in their sorrows, in their trials and fears, and even in their passions. And this happens any given day. But today, I find myself fixed on an elderly black man sitting on a park bench, reading his newspaper and drinking a Pepsi soda. He doesn't look freed. He doesn't look delivered or transformed or even revived. He looks a little shamed. He doesn't look honored, delighted, or even excited. He is just existing in his space, reading his paper and drinking his Pepsi soda. I wonder to myself, does he come here every day to this same bench, reading the same paper and drinking the same cola? But on this day, this is where we connected, and this is where our energies met. Any given day, he could have been anywhere else, but on this day he was here, oblivious to the liveliness and the hustle and bustle of the world surrounding him, focused on his paper. Deep into his thoughts, he had no care and no worry. And then I begin to wonder, where is his freedom? Where is his deliverance? Where is his transformation, his shame? Where is his honor, his delight, and even his excitement? Does it even exist in him? Suddenly, as I'm sitting there thinking, I look up and he is staring at me, no longer reading his paper. Our eyes connect. And as they connect, I felt something deep inside of him, and he began to stand up like a roaring lion. And as he stood up, he put his hand into his pocket and he pulled out a baseball cap and placed it on his head. And the cap read, U.S. Air Force Veteran. A feeling came over me like no other. And as I stared at him, he slowly raised his hand up to the brim of his cap and gave me a salute as I noticed one tear falling down his cheek. I smiled back, and in the same fashion, I saluted him back. He nodded his head, and then he turned to walk away as he grabbed his bag. And as he walked away and I stared, he slowly faded away into the trees, into the mist. And like that, in a moment, in a second, he was gone. And I looked around, wondering what just happened. Where did he go? I had no clue. I walked over to the bench and I looked around again to see if maybe I would see a glimpse of him. And as I sat down on the park bench and I put my hand on the bench, I felt something underneath my fingers. And I looked down and there was the baseball cap. And I placed it on my head proudly. U.S. Air Force Veteran. At that moment, I knew that black elderly man, my brother, that veteran, was finally freed, finally delivered, finally transformed, finally honored, and very excited and very delighted. So what is the moral of this poem? At any given day, a situation like this could happen to any one of us. But I'm proud to say on this day, it happened to me.
Greetings. My name is Tom McKenna. I am honored to be with you, and I really want to thank the organization for the opportunity to share my work with you. I'm going to share a selection from a novel I just finished called The Beauty of Brown Grass. This chapter is called Brown Spot on the Lawn. My father is featured in the book. In fact, he's the hero, and he was my hero in real life. He was a veteran who fought in the Pacific during World War II as part of the Naval Air Unit. One of the few times I saw my father shed tears was the night I came down to see him with two gentlemen with whom he served, and they had spent the night sharing stories and realized that they were the only ones left. So here goes. Brown spot on the lawn. After another hot weather supper of cold cuts and salads on the front porch, family members scatter to complete their respective cleanup tasks. My brother tosses away the meal's paper plates and napkins. Mother washes cups, silverware, and makes sure all leftovers are properly put away. Dad lights a cigar, sips a cold beer, and assumes his favorite crouch position, watering the front lawn. I'm handed a broom and sent to sweep the front steps and sidewalk. Like clockwork, Mr. Fitzgerald appears on his evening constitutional. "Father McKenna, what do you know?" "Hi, Mr. Fitzgerald, how are you?" I pause for a moment, broom in hand. "Don't wear yourself out, kid." Mr. Fitzgerald turns his attention to my father. "Mac, think the boy can handle that broom without hurting himself?" He cackles and turns back to me. "You missed a spot over there, you pineapple." My father takes a long drag on his cigar, rises out of his crouch, and walks over to greet our visitor. "Hi, Fitz." He puts the cigar back in his mouth in order to shake Mr. Fitzgerald's hand. "Hot enough for you, Mac?" Big Fitz motions with his head to my father's prized lawn. "Lawn's taking a beating. Once it gets brown like that, it's hard to bring it back. Damn shame. This pineapple over here should have been watering for you every morning. That's the best time, you know. Otherwise, one brown spot, and you lose the whole damn thing." My father voices the Jersey lament. "What are you going to do?" As he shrugs his shoulders and continues to pour water on and around the patch of brown grass. "Hear anything about that place down the street?" Mr. Fitzgerald motions to a house at the end of the block that's for sale, a novelty in the neighborhood. We live in the same house where my mother was born. People simply stay put. Dad chews a cigar and reluctantly shifts his attention away from the brown spot on the lawn. "No, Fitz, haven't heard a thing. Been up for sale for almost 2 months now." Dad nods. "I don't know, Mac. I just don't like it. A house like that should go quick. I know 100 families from back in Newark would jump at that chance to snap that up in a minute. At that price, you gotta be kidding me." I enjoy the respite from sweeping. Household chores are not my forte. Any excuse to lean on a broom rather than push it is something that I welcome. I try to hide behind Mr. Fitzgerald's words. "You gotta be careful." Big Fitz leans closer to my father. "Before you know it, people we don't want move in. Bust up the neighborhood, and me and you are looking for a new home. That's why I brought my family here, to get away from that shit. One group of coloreds moved in, and that was it. They were a wedge. The first group of jokers didn't want to live anywhere close to the likes of me. Hell, they were just opening up for the whole goddamn horde to follow them. They call it blockbusting, Mac. And don't for a minute think it can't happen here. You mark my words, just like your lawn. One brown spot, and that's it. You lost the whole damn neighborhood." Mr. Fitzgerald eases back from my father and lets him continue his evening task. "And that goes for you too, Father. Never let your guard down." He puts his fists up and playfully tosses a few jabs my way. "You still missed that spot back there, you pineapple. Christ, the kids from the school for the blind could do a better job." And Mr. Fitzgerald goes on his way, ever vigilant on his watch. "Keep your ear to the ground, Mac. Let me know what you hear." My father lets out a sigh and resumes his crouch. He tosses me a quick glance to give notice that break time is over. "What was that about, Dad?" "Oh, it's just Big Fitz being Big Fitz. Don't pay any attention to him." My father walks to the brown spot in the middle of the lawn, kneels down, and pulls up a handful of dead grass. "Throw some water on this in the morning, okay, Tommy?" "Sure, Dad. Think it'll come back?" "Never can tell, son. It just might." The subtitle of this book, by the way, is How I Learned About Race and Racism. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I hope you enjoyed it. Good night.
My name is Perry Monroe. I served in the Marine Corps between 1979 and 2007. In dealing with my time, I learned to kind of write. And these are some of the pieces I have written that tell my story about my service and my life. The first one, call it Note to My Younger Self, as a way of looking back and reconciling everything I went through. So now I will read Note to My Younger Self. Well, it has been a long and crazy ride. Boy, that is putting it mildly, but you got this. You're going to ask some hard questions of yourself, doing a lot of soul searching in the process. Before you panic, there is no right or wrong answer to your questions. The one thing is, it only goes to show is that you can bounce back from anything. Some things you will look back on and laugh, while others, no matter how much time has passed, you'll still want to cry. You will look back and realize you lived through more than a single person can endure. Though your dad served in the Navy for 34 years, serving in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, he will not want you to join the military, period. He would never tell you why, just that he doesn't want you to do it. So what do? You lie to your family so you can enlist. When it's all said and done, you'll put in 24 years in the Marine Corps, retiring as an infantry gunnery sergeant. Looking back at everything that happened, it was like setting a table. Everything happened like putting another piece on the table before the meal was served. The hardest question of all will be when you ask, have I seen too much death? In your youth in the Marines, you saw death as a companion. It was just something you had to endure. That, at some point, you'd reached an uneasy peace with death as he passed you by, only to take others from your life. You will see others that show their emotion while you feel as if you have none. You question your lack of emotion as if your emotions had not gotten the memo on the subject. The emotions are inside you. It's just that you haven't been granted the luxury of getting used to the feeling of loss at such an early age. You will be hardest on yourself, though all of this blaming yourself for what you had no control over. The events that took them from this world. At the age of 23, while most people our age had settled into a regular existence back home, you were on Bagum-Tagum detail, sending your brothers home, saying goodbye for the last time. Let's do the math, like it makes it any easier for you to understand. Let's add it all up. Over the years, you will lose 19 men that were like brothers in the heat of combat. If you could have known there were those 4 that had an accident that you remember, could it have been avoided only if? Then there was the 3 that decided they had too much of this world, and without saying anything slipped away from us, leaving the world behind. All of this was before death gave you one more reminder of who was in charge. That was when he took your son serving in Iraq. Out of guilt, you will ask 3 questions, yet they are all the same questions. Why them? Why not me? Why did it have to happen? Out of that guilt, you don't try to kill yourself, but you do it by trying to volunteer going into harm's way as often as you could, even when you didn't have to. You'll build a wall over time, not to keep things out, but to keep things in. That wall will serve you well, but like all things, they deteriorate over time. You will come to realize that it's not who you are really. One day you'll find that one person who will guide you into the light, out of the shadows of that dark wall you have built over the years. You will learn that there is no timeline to follow. All things in their time will happen when they're supposed to happen. While you have come to an understanding with death, you are still going to have a long journey with grief. It is more of a discussion than a journey at times with what grief has in store for you. The conversation with grief will not be settled all at once. You both keep finding things to bring that conversation back to the light as if it was day one. So through all the heartache and pain, you will make it. Just remember to breathe. All that being said, have faith because you got this. Respectfully, your older self. With my PTSD, I have my world I live in, and I kind of put it into writing what it feels like. My world. It's very cold in my world. It's always below freezing. You feel it constantly, although here it's not a place. It's as much a dimension, a very dark and lonely one. It is always winter here, most likely the coldest winter imaginable, and it's always nighttime. The sun never rises. Sometimes it's an empty city with icy streets, an abandoned city with few flickering street lights still working. They will always work just to expose the emptiness and the futility of trying to find any signs of life. Some other times, here, it's similarly cold, dark, completely colorless, empty countryside with one unpaved, icy road that you have to walk. So vast, cold, empty, dark. Sometimes there's some moonlight. Your home is so very far. You know you're walking home. Of course, you'll never get home. You hope you will. You're supposed to be delusional after all. You're here. It never snows. Snow would be too pretty. In the city, it never snows either, for the same reason. And of course, you're still trying to get home. You hope in vain because there is no home. Of course, you're in this place alone. No one can get to in the city is an old dilapidated bus station. Yes, buses sometimes come. Most of the time, they are very cold as well. There is no heating. There is no driver. You know about this one bus, though. Somehow, you know that there is this bus that is supposed to come and take you home. That bus has heating, though. You know about this bus, and you are desperately hoping, waiting for it to come. It never comes. You hope. Though you know very well that it will never come, there is no color, no warmth here. You must forget you are here. You are tired. You're so very tired, but here is nowhere to rest, nowhere to sit. Sometimes it seems like there are people around. Not many silhouettes around in this haunting bus station. You think there are people, but when you approach these figures, you notice they have no faces. They are motionless, lifeless, of course. You could try to feel something about it or less be moved by these creatures somehow, but you're not. You are too cold. You are too desperate to emote anything. It would be so helpful to express yourself, but these things do not have their rationale here. You are in this place alone, and you do have warm clothes, but they're never warm enough. There's no chance for any comfort. Even wearing these supposedly warm clothes because, of course, you are here. You are supposed to be cold here. You cannot forget about it. You know your thoughts are very simple, monotonous, because the only thing you want here is some warmth, to be home, or at least the tiniest sensation of comfort. You know that there is no chance for it either, but you're hoping. This hope is torturous. But then everything after all, you are here. This is your eternity. Yes, eternity, and thus I must forget to mention time. Time is a monster. The only thing worse than time is no time at all. There is no time in here. Of course, there is no linearity. The dimension is never ending, and you are here. You wish you could change something. Nothing ever ends here. How absurd it seems to be afraid of this, afraid of something that would bring salvation. But how can this be if there is no life in the first place? How can there be an end if there is no beginning? Again, you hope, but hope is just another method of torture. Hope is also cold as ice. There is a pain here that is nausea and misery, and they go well together here. Strangely enough, you have memory when you need this to suffer enough, because there would not be here without knowing other dimensions could look like, because this is memory. Maybe it's only some kind of sinister notion of having to exist here and realize that this is not deserved at all. Was it all just the luck of the draw, nothing more, nothing less? Any sense, of course, not making sense of this could bring some comfort after all. So how does not provide it? There, of course, is a question. Why? Who are you to bear this? Who are you to know this? Why are you out of breath, out of words? When then you have no comfort to wonder about any of this. If it would occupy the mind, if anything like this could be defined here, you have no energy to try to understand any decisions, to wonder who or what made them. You have no control. You will never have any control. You know you did your best. This is clearly irrelevant. Oh, but there is no past tense in here, let alone future. There is only present. And how ironic the present is this, perfectly customized. It is the pursuit of randomness, of some strange, inexplicable paradox of existence. Consciousness, the fatal consciousness of curious being. The fatal concession of being conscious, being the sheer awareness of my broken brain and delusional mind. The multidimensional, senseless, timeless. Don't even forget that there is here. Don't forget, tedious, nauseating, breathless, lifeless, painless, sleepless, and yet conscious, ultimately cursed with the sickening consciousness. It is very cold and very dark here, so far from home. How did I get here? How do I know all this? I exist.
I'm Chuck Fink, and I am the ghost of bipolar future. At 71, I can look back with those first 3 months of my experience in a psychiatric ward. It was the summer of 1970 and was hot and smuggy because I was in Washington, D.C., and that's built on a swamp. Well, one day, after many, many difficult days, I finally, with the help of a roommate, ended up at the George Washington University psych ward, where I was diagnosed as having paranoid schizophrenia. And I was given the heavy-duty psychotropic drugs of Thorazine and Haldol, which I used to name Hell with It All because it made me feel like a zombie. Well, I did handle that well enough that I guess after 3 months, they said I was free to go back to society. And my state of mental wellness lasted a very brief time. This is Foggy Bottom, Washington, D.C., where you have the State Department, George Washington, not too far from the White House, not too far from the Lincoln Memorial. And I walked around the area until my feet were bleeding. And I stopped in my apartment stoop and stripped naked. And that brought me another tick back to the twilight zone of the psychiatric ward. And in that twilight zone, as I'm walking around, one day I look on the wall and there's a photo of a doc, but I don't see a doctor. I see it's God. It's God. And I go into a manic rage because nobody believes me. And then I realize if I'm the only one that can see it, I must be Jesus. Well, it took 6 orderlies to pin me down so that a nurse could come by with a shot in the butt of Thorazine, heavy duty, very strong Thorazine. They threw me in the quiet room. That's a misnomer, actually. It's a room with padded walls and a urine stain mat, and the only window is on the door with that little sliding bar like a speakeasy. Well, after 3 months, I got out. So in 1970, I spent half of it in psychiatric wards. I went back to my hometown of Cincinnati, where I managed to stay hospital free for exactly 4 years. And then it was time for my sister's wedding. My parents were not wealthy, but my sister really wanted to have a fancy-ass wedding in a big hotel. My dad was very anxious and nervous about it, and I think he took it out on me. Well, that wasn't the first time. But he said, since you don't have a date, I want you to guard the booze so this staff at this hotel doesn't steal any. I reeled at the implication. Well, first of all, to put that on the staff, I thought was rather strange. But worse, I thought he was saying that I'm not really a full family member. He'd rather me be a guard of his booze. And not long after, I'm back in the psych ward. Missed my sister's wedding, and 3 months later, I did get out. And I made the mistake of moving into my parents' apartment. It did not go well. A lot of tension. One day they went on a day trip, and when they got home, they found me lying on the bathroom floor in a pool of urine. There were a few empty vials of medicine on my nightstand. I woke up 2 days later with my arms and legs bound to the bed. I call them shackled to the bed. I got to tell you, that was one failure that I'm really glad I succeeded at failing. Well, eventually got out of the hospital, and then it was just, 2 years later, and it was after my very short-lived and very failed marriage that I was back in the hospital again, 1976. But 2 things happened on this journey that really set the tone for the rest of my life. One was, I met a guy named Jeff, and one day Jeff's talking to me. He said, what's your diagnosis? I said, well, they tell me I have paranoid schizophrenia. He said, I don't believe it. And he said, I think you're like me. I think you have bipolar. Well, he gave me the name and phone number of his doctor, and I took it down, but then I was discharged. And in the second 3 months, something else happened that was quite helpful. That was, I got a job working at a sheltered workshop, counting and bagging screws. It was the coldest January in Cincinnati history. The Ohio River had frozen over. I'm taking a bus at 6:30 in the morning to go to a workshop where my job was to count screws and put the right number in a bag. Well, I must have been really good at that job, because when I got out of the hospital, I went to work as an advertising rep for the local daily newspaper. 1978 was my last trip to a psych ward. This time I took my friend Jeff's advice and I called that doctor. He saw me, agreed with Jeff, and then put me on lithium. Wow, my mind came back. I could find my mind again. It was amazing. But by the way, it's not bipolar disorder. Oh no, it's bipolar condition. I'm not broken. I don't need to be fixed. It's like someone that has a heart condition or kidney condition, which I do, by the way. After 37 years on lithium, I now have kidney disease. But I manage all of that well, including the bipolar. So
it doesn't define who I am. And then in 1979, my world just turned around completely. I met a young woman and we fell in love. I told her the story, didn't bother her a bit. And Cindy and I have been married for 40 years. We don't define me by my diagnosis. Neither of us do. It's not who I am. And we've had 2 sons. One is an actor in LA, and the other is an IT executive. You want to talk about bipolar? So, okay. So, and then I retired from my business that I founded after 30 years. You know, that's really leveraging a bipolar problem into a personal victory because we do not hold jobs that easily. It'd be a little difficult, but I did that. And now I've not only been hospital free for 40 years, nearly 40 years, I also volunteer for NAMI, where I'm involved with first responder training because I want the police officers, the firefighters, the first responders, the social workers to know that when they would deal with somebody on the streets that was as wild and crazy as I was back in Washington, D.C., I want them to see the ghost of bipolar future. Thank you very much.
Hi, folks. My name is B.J. Brewer. I'm a Vietnamer, a vet. My military background includes service in 3 separate branches of the military: U.S. Naval Air Reserve, U.S. Air Force Security Service, and the Texas Air National Guard. The title of the poem is Graves Beneath Our Feet. Memories last 100 years, but the story is longer still. But heroes live forever, as we all hope they will. Telling tales that all sound better with every shot that's tossed, sharing memories but painful for all the ones we've lost. It's remembering that we celebrate. It's the losses we all mourn. It's the sacrifices made for us before we were even born. But if we stop recalling, if we cease to honor that past, then we'll lose our connection to the shadows over us cast, and we'll forget and commit again what we thought we'd never repeat. And we'll find ourselves yet once again celebrating victories on graves beneath our feet. Thank you.
The story of unsad you, returned to forever as I am. The sun shines shimmering rays that no longer fell on half the planet, but the entirety of the earth at the same time. It had been this way for months now, and all of the greatest scientists had gathered to try to determine why. What happened to the night? Here before, such a phenomena had been considered impossible. With the natural rotation of the earth and in its journey around the sun for millions of years, half the planet had always been sunlit, while the other half was dark, but not anymore. A mystery light shined from somewhere, illuminating everything everywhere. Great mathematicians sat at complex computers, calculating and configuring, trying to determine the reason and the trajectory of the light. The most respected astronomers searched the heavens for the unearthly source of luminosity to no avail. Satellites with their most sophisticated high-tech equipment sent sensors far and wide, beyond and through our solar system, psychics search the heavens with their minds, penetrating astrally, finding only the void of undetermination, only the utter darkness within the silent, cold secret of outer space, still unrevealed and hiding the emission, yet no knowledge revealed of the light source. Because of this, unsaid you sat on a rock in the abyss along a river's edge, sunning himself as he had done since the beginning of time. Finally, it is time, he thought, as his heart rejoiced as it sensed the precious moments that would lead to the upliftment for all that loomed ahead. The time was nearing to wade in the water with the children, clapping and stamping their feet in unity, caring, and love. The jumping off point always brings gleeful promise because it has always been inviting to straddle the great void, one foot in reality while the other nestled in the poisonous wicked powers, preparing to step out of it. That was the knowledge that he had finally gleaned that led him to become unsaid you. The sign was also the answer, glowing all around him, within him, and without him. He knows from whence comes the light. In the inner space of his consciousness, the blue, black, smooth-faced, mouthless figure who is unsaid you sits at the proverbial entrance of the great rock before the abyss of the void, unbroken. Unsaid you, dressed unusual and naked, celestial in aspect, filled with naked truth, unsaid you staring dutifully into the heavens, longing to be one with it, the universe reacting in a mesmerizing way, in a fixed trance, staring back at him. Who are you? Thoughts are heard to mutter. Unsaid you is no threat to existence. An aura of joy and love permeates and is soaked up by those who are thirsty for his essence. The word quickly spreads. People are coming from every corner of the earth just to lay eyes on the phenomena of unsaid you. Just to look upon this spirit brings laughter to your heart, a smile to your face, a freeness to your aspect, the feeling that you can dance in step with others forever invades your inner care, your inner core instantly, and you do dance without constraint, prancing like a proud stallion, once held prisoner, now set free to be. The crowd grows quickly, becoming millions in the blink of an eye, then thousands of millions. Unsaid you smiles, then jauntily rises, and the crowd is now a unanimous, uproarious laughter with this movement. Unsaid you is so cute when he smiles, although unsaid you has no mouth. Yet and still, unsaid you smiles broadly, and all are touched by his smile's enormity. Chants and songs that are beautiful and melodic begin to fill the air, becoming one melody sounding from a distance as though the millions are singing "I am" over and over again, while they continually emit the powerful love emotion that has grown and whose undulating fingers of pulsing energy is engulfing them all. A bevy of reporters swarm unsaid you from the west bank of the East River, laughing and singing themselves. They thrust microphones and video cameras toward him at every conceivable angle. Who are you? In their eyes, an aspect having dispensed with their norm for dramatic assumption. Where are you from? In their manner, unsaid you thinks aloud. I am. And his thought becomes music to their ears as unsaid you begins to dance a jig, honoring the East while rejoicing for the West's new coming day. The millions began dancing in spontaneous, joyous glee as magnetic harmony pulls them into a tighter family of undulating joy. In an office, in the not too distant imaginings of evil, sit the suits in an expanding smoke-filled room ripe with blind attribution and unrelenting greed. The suits codify the uniforms as all are confounded with sullen faces. They wear masks to solicit agreement from one another and seek ways to plant and harvest fear from all the masses within the earshot who possess heartbeats. They insist the millions turn on their barking radios and their shouting televisions to be fed their daily doses of devouring fears. In this room, feigned love of joy is king and hope is the hunted. They replicate hard and calculating spirits here focused on control, motivated by the callous imaginings of greed and power. They exclaim in disgruntled unison as their demented countenances agree. The entire world is laughing, partying, and dancing, prancing, and singing. The entire world is in joy except for us. We must end hope. Hope, they were certain, could be destroyed. And then they could bury it in a place where it could never rise again or be seen. At first, the uniforms had convened their meeting with the suits because there was no longer darkness on the planet and no one could explain why. There was a light where and when darkness had traditionally reigned. Now, there was another fear. It was the fear that the people who once feared the darkness could come out of the reality of dark and become light and no longer show fear for fear itself. The suits and the uniforms agreed something drastic needed to be done. They could not accept unsad you's joy. So they laid out plans and devised schemes, organized attacks designed to plummet his glee, thereby reinforcing their negative posteriors. The greatest machines of annihilation that had ever been created were dusted off and primed for action. They summoned their fiercest, most violent commanders and issued specific strategic orders designed to destroy unsad you and implement the creation of fresh emotings of uncontrolled fear. Unsad you stood at the entrance of the great rock near the abyss of the void below, peering inward and out from himself. From the millions of myriad of seeking eyes took him in, searching him for a reason, answer, and purpose. Somehow they knew that unsad you was not merely an unsad, but his thoughts and emotions of each and every one of them spiraling separately, yet all together at the same time towards joy. Unsad you felt a twinge, strange sensation, then dutifully squatted and defecated just outside the entrance of the abyss to the void below. Millions strained to see and get a whiff of the odor of the pungent excrement of which he had purged himself. Moved, they all squatted and began purging themselves of their own foul innards as a natural response to the moment at hand. From the north, a politician appeared astride a gold-plated vulture circling unsad you and the millions in a smooth, swirling glide. His manner was supreme. Laser beams issued from his mouth, found unsad you, who did not care. These lasers were intended to surgically dismember unsad you as they came forward from the mouth, measured by lies and inaccurate condemnations. The gold-encrusted beast descended steadfastly, targeting unsad you's heart and firing at his mind. It seemed they would succeed until Unsad You smiled. The millions witnessing followed suit, and a gigantic rainbow issued forth from their presence, a stone wall of goodness and love, so thick, so impenetrable, that the vultures spewed their tainted oil of hate and retreated back to the abyss in the rock before the void below, there to hide themselves and to gnash their teeth while angrily flipping over the tables of their feast because they could not harm Unsad You. The millions were becoming something new now that was very old. Their singing soon joined the sirens far off, coming near. Airplanes now whizzed overhead, some dropping leaflets of scattered reasoning. They floated down like torrential rains of remembrances of how it had been in the past when evil picked its teeth with the bones of the innocent. Unsad You reached out and down, picking up a child who began giggling, then broke out into uncontrollable laughter. Unsad You lifted him upward towards the stars, holding him high while laughing. Overcome with joy, he doubled over in mirth, letting go of the child who began free floating in midair. The floating had begun first with the children who gleefully turned somersaults in the air, soaring over the joyous multitude, all emoting a powerful energy that could be felt like a warm breeze undulating on the surface of their skins. They themselves becoming an essence of who they truly are, more powerful than they had ever been before in any lifetime since the beginning of their selves' existence. Swooping, they grabbed the hand of another being who lovingly hoists them high into the giggling sky, filling with increasing love, joy, and laughter. The more joy felt, the higher Unsad You rises. Higher thoughts are taking Unsad You towards the stars. Love and the primary fuel now undulates about them. These were Unsad You's perfect gifts given to him from God, who were now the people emoting and laughing collected below and above him. God below him, above him, and within him, though huge, was now a swirling mass of vibrating beings poised for the destination of inevitability. The war machines found them floating in the sky closer to the stars than they had ever been in these days and times. Caught in their crosshairs, rockets bore down on them, creating star-spangled explosions too debilitating to describe. The rockets and bombs crashing against existence and love, bullets hitting their marks continually as massive fire and smoke, testaments of their intent, smiled willingly. The uniform smiled too, and conferred with the suits laughingly in celebratory haste, ringing the chimes of their servants for more cognac, truffles, and oils to consume. Dutifully, the servants approached, but they had been apprised of an impending ascension when their televisions winked at them before running off. More explosions in the sky. More smoke clouding their eyes from everywhere, though the chanting remains steady and clear purpose. Now that there is no fear of it, the words become a light of their own, leading the way to the leaping off point, though each person sings their own song, which is oh, so sweet, so different and melodically intoxicating. From a distance, all that is heard from the multitude is one voice that sounds like it is continually chanting, I am. The smoke is clearing, the chanting rising in an undulating, energizing cadence, a soulful, driving resonance, a quiet prayer, building to an unprecedented answer, a frenzy now burgeoning, unsaid you mouthlessly singing, chanting, I am, while smiling at God within him and without him, settling in for the duration come to stay, because here at last was a place worthy of being in forever. God below him was now in the now. The realization of unsaid you's expectation had always been expected, actualized and ready, poised, tottering on the brink of eternity, impending to become and forever be whatever was coming. The planes skirted away in fear of retribution, confirming they could no longer do any harm as the uniforms tossed out their watches and the suits began to beat themselves with fresh-made batches of $100 bills crawling down under the heat of the worthless baubles because of the new day to come, in a fruitless attempt to hide themselves from what they were now discovered to be. Unsad you, floating towards a multitude did not care. The multitude floating towards unsad you did not care. They sing songs so different, but together resounding and sounding as though they are chanting, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am, I am. They know they will sing until it is done and beyond done. Unsad you grasps the hand of millions. Unsad you holds their hearts and is caring as they synchronize in passion to a beat of unison without a mouth. Unsad you communicates loudly and clearly to all who can hear. I am is good. I am is the universe. I am is worthy. I am is Alpha, and I am Omega, and that I am, and that ain't all I am, is worthy with this knowledge. I am you as you are me, and in that instant, I am became light. The light of unsad you. And the song interwoven streams upward and outward, enveloping the world, the solar system, the galaxy, the universe in its becoming. I am, booming out over everything, being absorbed by everything. The sparkling, reinvigorated spirits, leaving no crevice untouched by the light of the love pouring from their many songs, emoted from their hearts, because they were no longer us. But I am, and I am becoming unsad you, and unsad you becoming this emission, this emotion. Unsad you's millions of eyes are shining orbs of joy as they swirl up and inward, then pulsate out and away from hatred, out and away from war, out and away from greed and even need, out and away from stupidity and unrelenting barbarism, out and away from killing fields, out and away from pangs of hunger, out and away from creating weapons of mass destruction and orchestrating victory and or defeat, out and away from racism and religions that are better than other religions that will kill to prove it, out and away from school bloodlettings and teachings of prideful cruelty, out and away from situations that spawn wrongful deeds, out and away from all that is unkind, unrighteous, and unworthy of being, and unwinds the mind, seeking to drag down the true nature of man's spirit and that of mankind, to try to deliver us back to loneliness, fear, despair, disgust, anguish, and the ultimate outrage of sharing no love with anybody. Out and away from illness, out and away even from death. Instead, swirling up and away, becoming what was meant to be for creation. Emoting the power of being, using love, unity, peace, courage, and harmony as a single entity made up of millions singing vibrations as one harmonious, eloquent song. They are the melody and the lyric, the momentum of swirling, the big happy party happening around everything that exists. Life is the party. All are invited and admitted to, and those who have arrived will party forever. The music is us. Our love for the new world, our love for each other and all who are in existence has come together under one rhythmic, creative vibration of yes. Song of hope, a song that empowers what is real and ushers in conscious innovation with formidable change. I am, until we are one with all. I am, swirling. I am everything. I am all. I am the reinvigorated spirits who bore witness as unsad you returned to forever as I am.